Welcome to From Potential to Powerhouse, Success Secrets from Female Leaders, where female trailblazers share their journeys and the aha moments that made all the difference. With your host, serial entrepreneur and trailblazer herself, Tracy Holland.
Anna has had quite an incredible career as CEO of the Los Angeles Business Journal, and most recently was named Chief of Staff and Strategist for Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, who is the CEO, or is he the chairman of the Los Angeles Times?
Anna, he's the executive chairman. Yes. Thank you, Tracy, for having me.
Welcome, welcome. I had so much fun listening to some of your podcasts and listening and taking a look at your career and your trajectory. I did not know that you were originally a psych undergrad, but today I'd love to have a conversation, and I always love to set the temperature for what we're here to do, which is ultimately to talk to women who are the women we were 10 years ago, who are on their own career path and their own career trajectory, navigating all of the things that we have to navigate in terms of running a business, becoming profitable for our businesses, being strategists and powerhouses in the world outside on the day-to-day, and then having to also navigate some of the things that we do as mothers and wives, and making sure that all the trains are running on time, and what it takes to do that. So welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And I think if we could, Anna, have a minute to talk a little bit about what you were like as a young woman, because your career is really become so explosive, especially here on the West Coast. You've been, leading some of the most prominent publications here, and made such an impact, especially in Los Angeles with Taste and some of the other things you've done. But what were you like as a younger Anna?
Oh gosh, it depends on who you ask. To be really honest with you, I mean, if you asked my parents, they probably would have said I was a bit of a rascal. So, I mean, honestly, I was a little devious as a kid. I would say that a bit of a tomboy. But overall, I played with the boys. I skateboarded, I biked, I was very active, I roller skated. I love the outdoors and I love to have fun. But as I became more and more of a teenager, my love and passions changed over the years, and it was a lot to do with sort of figuring out who I want to be in the future. And so I had to step back for a minute and just really think it through.
And are you Armenian?
I am. I'm Armenian, actually originally from Yerevan. Both of my parents are also Armenian. I was born there. We came to the United States when I was 4, and been in LA ever since.
And so what was that experience like for you, moving from Armenia and coming to the United States and having your family establish themselves here? Did you feel like you fit in and you felt like you had a home base here, or did you have to kind of really figure it out? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember a little bit. I mean, I was such a kid back then. I don't really remember much about my life in Armenia or that early in my stage of my life. But, I remember my parents were very concerned, very scared in the beginning. My dad trying to figure, his career out. My dad had a master's in construction, and my mom, I believe it's either a master's or equivalent to a PhD in chemistry. And so both trying to figure this new world out here in the United States. I mean, I was sort of a free kid growing up, but all I remember is that, I didn't speak the language. I was determined to learn the language. I didn't want my parents to not know things that they should. And in the beginning, it was pretty easy, I would say. There's so much of my life that is Armenian, and I kept that because of tradition and heritage. And I love that my parents kept that. So at home, we were very Armenian. And then I went to school, and then I was sort of surrounded by all these international kids that I was so fascinated with, because every single kid from a different background just brought this unique perspective or a unique experience. And it was really interesting because most Armenians or some Armenians, I shouldn't say most, but most Armenians who come to the United States really gravitate in having just Armenian friends and kind of surrounding themselves with a lot of Armenians. And I had the privilege of having multicultural friends, partly because of the schools that I went to, and really embraced just getting familiar with different cultures in different areas. It was just fascinating to me, like how people grew up and what their homeland was like, or why do they speak a different language, and can I learn that language? And I was just always a very curious kid that way.
If both your parents are well educated, were they expecting you to pursue college? Was that just inherently part of the plan?
There was no plan B. I mean, it was not even, it was college. It was like, you're going to be a doctor, right? I mean, this is what you do. You're going to either be a doctor or a doctor. That was pretty much it. When I entered Cal State Northridge, actually, there's a lot of reasons why I went to Cal State Northridge. My mom was ill when I was in high school, and we knew that her time with us was, she had cancer. So it was really a rough decision to stay local in school, and but also I didn't know how much time we were going to have with her. But it was expected for me to go to medical school or dentistry school. So actually, when I entered Northridge, I had means of becoming a dentist because I used to work at a dental office when I was in high school. I used to go sterilize the equipment and, make sure that our office was OSHA compliant and all of these, like, as a high school student. And this was very normal to do. But when I got into CSUN and I took one biology course, and I remember running out of class trying not to throw up. I figured I need to change course of action here, because I'm going to be in serious trouble if I'm going to have to puke every time I do anything in medicine. So I met with the counselors, and we decided that I do still love like the human sort of mindset, and but I wasn't really into business at that time. I couldn't also come home to my mom and say, dentistry out, I'm going into business. I was scared to death of her. And I decided to go with psychology partly because CSUN had a really great psychology program. And I just figured I can find my path later with psychology if I wanted to go into law school or business or pursue anything. And it also gave me that flexibility within the school. I took 3 years to tell my mom I changed my major, though. I kept it from her. I didn't want to. I was scared to death of her. I mean, she was tough cookie.
Was she a tough cookie?
She was. I mean, she was a chemist, right? So she had I think it's an equivalent to a PhD in Armenian education if you were to like transfer the degree here. And she was a very methodical, very analytical woman, very smart. And the expectations of education it was a mandatory in our house. It wasn't about making money. It was about getting educated and doing good and helping others. She was known in the community to help others. She helped so many Armenian families try to find their way and their path in America. And that was just this philanthropic at heart mentality. And she also felt that even if one day I decide not to, let's say, pursue a career, that any degree that I have can help me in my family life, like, helping raise my kids and knowing that I can relate to them on a school level or helping them with schoolwork. So she had a very different perception of life, more traditional than most, but at the same time, education and philanthropy was really big in her heart.
And so as an inherently Armenian family that really carried the values, was it supported that women would be in the workplace and raising children? Did you have an expectation that you could be professionally driven and successful and be outside of the home in a role where you're leading a business the way you are?
I sort of, was in this mindset that I can do whatever I want to do. I can be whoever I want to be. And as long as I put the effort and work hard, it was never a question. It was never is my childhood or my heritage or my Armenian background going to keep me from doing those things. But, I always define myself that I'm Armenian living in America, even though I'm an American citizen. And I think there's so much power and diversity that's one of the reasons what makes America so strong, is that we have so many beautiful, different, diverse cultures, and we learn from each other. And so I never lost that sense of self. Like a lot of Armenians who came to the United States, had to change their name because, it's hard. Like Magzanyan doesn't roll off the tip of your tongue. And my real name is Anna. But, as a kid, everybody just called me Anna or Anne, or my mom. Only when she called me Anna is when she was, yelling at me because I did something or broke something. But, but it's, I tried really hard not to change any of that, and acclimate into the United States and be an American Armenian, but at the same time, like really keep my heritage and be proud of that. And I'm still proud of it. I think Armenia is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever seen, and it continues to be. And it's fun to bring a little bit of that culture in your workforce. I think it just gives different perspective on how you would analyze a situation.
I love the story that I heard about how you first entered into the media business and how you first were considered your way. You really built your career up through the Los Angeles Business Journal, right? Did you started in media selling? Is that correct? Give me an overview of how you transitioned.
Yes and no. So my career started, my first job out of college was at an agency. I worked for Initiative Media. They were just hiring college recruits. I just happened to be one of 15 that they ended up hiring. I was on the agency side for about 10 to 12 years. I worked on a lot of great brands at Initiative. And then when everybody was going to AOL the first time around, before it went up and then it went down, I stayed in the agency side, but I went to a boutique agency to work on a couple of brands and really be able to wear multiple hats, which was really exciting. So I worked on the Kettle One brand, and it was really fun because Kettle One had never done any marketing in the United States. And then I got to work on the launch of the Kettle One. I got to work with M&C Saatchi really closely to get trained on their version of account strategy and account planning. I got to work with the Nolet family, which was really interesting to work with the Nolet family because they have so many traditions that are really near and dear to like my Armenian childhood. It's a 12 generation, if I'm not mistaken, father and son business passed down generation after generation. There's so much respect with each other in the family. And so it was really great to help launch this brand and help really take it to the next level. And then once Kettle One sold to Diageo, I got recruited by their different agencies, but I was already a principal at Round 2 Communications at the time. And I thought, gosh, been there, done that. I want to try something new. I got recruited from the LA Times the first go around in 2005. I took the job, became the vice president of marketing, where I handled advertiser marketing and some product development, launched a couple of new things that were happening at the LA Times, including the Taste. I worked on, launching a product called Image, which is a style a magazine type product. At the time, there was the only thing that was happening was the New York Times style section. So we wanted something for LA. Taste was a food and wine festival. I learned a lot from the liquor business when I worked on Kettle One. So I brought that mentality, and until today, the Taste exists, which is kind of great. I think it's over 10 years now.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it's
a great brand. It's its own brand.
It's its own brand, yeah, and it's so much fun to sort of watch how that worked. I worked on events at that time too, and I stayed there for about 6.5 years, and then from there, I tried different media entities. I went to Clear Channel for a little bit, helped Michelle Lavin and Bob Pittman work on changing Clear Channel to iHeartRadio, that whole branding strategy. I spent a little bit of time working with Janice Min and Lynn Siegel at Hollywood Reporter as a CMO there to really just take the marketing to the next level in our events and our Oscar participations, et cetera. And then at some point went into the YouTube space and worked with some YouTube talent when everything was going into the MCN world at Omni Media. Worked with a really young company. It was so much fun, actually. I was probably the oldest one in the company, and I had just maybe turned 40 at the time.
That.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I'll never forget my interview. So I walked into for an interview, and I'm suited up and. You just go to interview and everyone's in t-shirt, jeans, and there's like an iWalk rolling around. And I said, I'll be back in 2 hours. And the next interview that I came in, I was in jeans, t-shirt, and I think like a hoodie or something. And I got to work with them for 9 months. They were such a smart group of gentlemen that I was working with. I think the youngest one was 16 or 17 at the time, Austin, and Timur launched Omni Media. And my goal there was to elevate the brand and help them elevate some of the things that they're doing with some of the local talent, as well as talent in the gaming space in London. I got to work with the London talent space in the gaming industry. I learned a lot about the gaming industry, and my son was gaming at the time. So it was great for me to understand what Minecraft was and what Call of Duty was and how these YouTubers are sort of navigating that space. And then when Omni Media sold, which one of my goals there was to help elevate them so that they can either sell or bring in more investors. I got recruited by Matt Toledo. He reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, your name keeps coming up when every time I turn a corner, we should meet. So we met. And at the time, I had decided to consult a little bit because I'd been working since I was 15 nonstop. And I wanted to take a little bit of time off and just spend time with family, do summer, vacations, and figure out what my next career was. And he asked me to come on as a consultant to help elevate some of their events and think through the sales strategy for the LA Business Journal. And I thought to myself, gosh, I don't want to necessarily go back to just a print product, a niche product. I'm so far down in this video space and the YouTube space. But what was really fascinating to me about the LA Business Journal is that I went to one event, Tracy, and the power of the people that were engaging with the LA Business Journal, even though it was small, it was mighty. I mean, you had Eli Broad and, Patrick Soon-Shiong was even there at one of the events. And, I want to say Gary Michelson and some of these big, huge names in the LA DNA. And I thought, okay, so what value do I bring here? So I brought a little bit of the digital understanding to them, really helped create programs that can integrate programs and to monetize the journal. As any print product, bless you, as any print product, they were going on a downward, the revenue was decreasing. And so we repackaged a couple things, thought through circulation a little bit differently, and then it was doing really well. So my 3 years at LA Business Journal was fun because I got to play as an entrepreneur in sort of a corporate environment and create things. And I was given that latitude to pretty much create whatever I want. And as long as it was driving revenue and profit, we were great. And every year we had exponential growth. So fast forward, I had thought about what is my next move? Do I want to open up my own publication? Do I want to think about going into a different industry? I was in the tech space or the private equity space. I wasn't sure. I wanted to have a couple of conversations with smart business leaders in LA to feel out what my next step would be. And I met with Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong. We had done an event together called the Innovation Awards that he was the title sponsor for at LA Business Journal. And I've always been in awe of him personally and professionally, more so.
And we should mention owner of, or partial owner of the LA Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Over 200 patents.
Yep.
Filed, and probably one of the most prominent innovators in the medical space for medical breakthroughs in our lifetime.
Absolutely. Not to mention a huge philanthropist.
Last time I heard from him was when he was working with the with the Trump administration during COVID and certainly Gavin Newsom and the folks here in California on how he could pivot his technology for his cancer vaccine, taking some of the same tenets of his cancer vaccine and then applying it to solutions to solve for a vaccine for COVID. And when he explained to us how he saw the approach to COVID, and this is maybe 3 weeks into COVID taking over the world, it blew my mind that he was so brilliant as to how he even understood the virus, let alone how he could take some of the technologies that he had developed in other applications and apply a solution to COVID. So
definitely.
Brilliant, man.
I mean,
you're very fortunate.
He's incredible. And that was, so I reached out to him to have a yes. Oh, sorry. Okay. No, that's okay. You're absolutely right, Tracy. He's incredible. I think, besides being a scientist, right? Besides being a business owner, besides being a surgeon, he's the head of 3 different philanthropies, I believe, philanthropic organizations, nonprofit organizations. And he's brilliant. I mean, the way he sees the world and the way his brain thinks, I will never understand it. I will always strive to understand it. But it also, I looked up to him in a very different. I've lost both parents to cancer, and all the work that he's done for cancer is just inspirational. I mean, Abraxane to, that helps with pancreatic and lung cancer. So it was a really meaningful breakfast that we had. And I had talked to him about, just thinking through my career and what I wanted to do. And I had shared with him some of the success I've had at LA Business Journal. And right then and there, we crafted a position for me for the LA Times and to join his organization and his leadership team. And I was in awe, humbled, in shock, all at the same time, but super excited, and kept thinking, like, how do I help someone so brilliant to take LA Times to the next level and to really help with some of his vision and strategies. And I have to tell you, it's been an incredible, I started my job right when Governor Newsom and Eric Garcetti said, okay, the world is closed. I think I got my job. And then 3 weeks later, they closed the world with COVID. And then I think I went to the office one day and then we shut down as a company and everybody's been working from home. But it's been such an incredible experience. He is very focused on the vaccine. He has been working day and night. What I think makes me in awe of this man is that he doesn't have to. And he does it every single day. And there will be times where I'll get an email from him at 1 a.m. and I'm up late and I'm like, gosh, he's not resting. Like, he's not even asleep. And all he cares about is people and their health, and really, really fighting for humans to have opportunity to live and to fight this disease. And it's truly remarkable to work for someone like that. It's humbling at the same time, so inspiring, and it makes me wake up every morning really excited about my job and what can I do to push this agenda forward and to be able to be part of this mission, in life. And this year, even with COVID, has just been an incredible year, working closely with the LA Times team, and I've been working with some of the other entities that he owns. And just really incorporating it in the fullest potential. And it's just been an incredible time. And I'm really humbled to be part of that team.
A couple things to point out. One is, you're right, he doesn't have to. I don't know what his published worth is, but it's in the many billions of dollars. So This is truly coming from a place of just being such a thoughtful problem solver and strategist and brilliant innovator. But I think it's also such a testament to you that he selected you for this role as a strategist and as someone who can build out his business initiatives in a thoughtful way. Because the thing that's so prominent about you, Anna, and and getting to know you while you're at the Los Angeles Business Journal is you really are a problem solver and a strategist. You see straight lines to get to an end result in the most efficient way possible. But you also are excellent at leading teams. And so that's really I think where he's found your powerhouse super strength as a compliment to his.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. I don't even know what to say about it, but thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I think, it's a big task to join a team like his. I don't take it for granted for 1 minute. I think there's so much we can do. I think I go to sleep every night with a list for the next day, and my list never gets shorter. It's sort of I have this interesting mentality of like, I don't operate in status quo very well. I always have to be moving forward, always have to be changing, always have to be growing, always have to be thinking about what's the next step future, what does Generation Z look like, 10 years from now, and are they happy with the world that we're leaving them to live, like my kids, and et cetera. But as far as a leadership role, I think my biggest strength is that I've always learned to hire people smarter than me. It's sort of what I do. I also don't hire two people with the same skill sets. I love to hire, I call it, it sounds a little silly, but it's like hiring pieces of a puzzle. Every puzzle piece is unique. And so I try to bring in unique folks into an organization that can help push the agenda forward. Part of it is embracing their strengths, embracing their background, embracing the diversity and the elements and their characteristics and the way they analyze situations and some of the thinking that they bring. The other part is like, I treat people who work for me as my partners and who work with me as my partners. It's never I'm your boss. I always actually make a joke and say, don't call me the B word. It's like an inside joke with my people. But it's kind of funny. Everyone's like, I would never do that. I said, no, I meant boss. Nothing more than that. Yeah. But it's because it's smart though. Yeah, I think we're all partners because it doesn't matter what my title is and we're all pushing forward and we all bring unique skill sets to push forward. And I always hire smart people because I say one day I'm going to be working for you. And I like to treat every single person in a way that I would want to be treated if I was ever working for them. And I try to be friendly and honest and transparent. Sometimes those conversations are tough when they're as honest and transparent. But I'm always trying to be very fair with everyone. And so far, knock on wood, it's worked for me. I've had people follow me in my career path. As soon as I've moved a job, I've had people reach out and say, wherever you go, I'm coming. Please always think of me. I've made friends through work. People who've worked for me have become my friends. It's really interesting. People say, oh, you should never cross that line. But I feel like once you've moved on to a different position, you can, if you like someone's personality, you can be friendly with everyone. So I probably look at it a little differently as a whole on how do I work with people.
And how do in what part of your career did you recognize that you had made it, where you realized that there was this shift and you thought, okay, mom and dad would be really proud? Or are you still feeling, talk about that?
God, no, I never feel like I've made it, first of all. And mom would be like, I don't understand what this means. When are you going to be the doctor? So like if she was alive today, she'd be like, I don't understand what a master's in business means. Like, when are you going to be a doctor? I don't I don't ever feel like I've made it. I feel that I don't ever look at it that way, I guess. I feel that everyone in life is replaceable. And it's a silly way of thinking about it, but I always tell my kids that if the president of the United States can be replaced every 4 years, everyone's position is replaceable, which means you have to continually be learning. I'm constantly learning media, constantly looking at other organizations who are doing it well, constantly striving for us to do better. I think I will look at the time where I will say I have made it is when I've diversified my income and enough that I don't have to work full time, or that I can retire. And my kids always laugh and say, I don't think you'll ever retire because grandpa never retired. It's just not in your personality. So the true, I guess, element for me is that I try to have fun with work. Like, I work hard, but I play harder. So what I mean by that is every year I take a vacation with my family. 2 or 3 to 6 times a year I take weekend getaways with my girls. It's just something I do. It's my form of meditation, I call it. So I try to enjoy life as I'm working as hard as I am. I try to strive for the next step and the next step and the next step. People ask me like, oh, what's your, what do you see yourself 5 years from now? I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea where technology is going, where the world is going. And I hope that I'm employed. I hope that I'm marketable. I hope that I'm relevant in the workforce, and that I continue to bring value to any organization that I'm part of. I've invested in a couple of organizations myself where I've thought, gosh, maybe I would go on my own one day. But I think I love just driving big entities. And to be honest with you, LA Times is one of the jobs, because this is my second stunt at LA Times. And when I was there the first time, Tracy, I loved being part of what it stood for. I mean, just to be part of a news organization is almost like fighting for democracy, right? Like that in this weird way that we are bringing journalism, to me is truly a remarkable way to continue to fight for democracy for our country. And there's this love that I have of what the journalists do every day. And it's the fact of the truth in reporting and the validation in reporting. And I know with our past president that news, fake news, and all of these terms were thrown around, et cetera. But I think that what journalists do day in and day out is humbling and remarkable. And it's hard, and it's very hard, especially like people who put their lives on the line to report the truth and the news. And they're not getting millions of dollars to do it. Right. And it's really coming from the heart and what they really believe in. And so that if I'm working towards driving revenue and product strategy in an organization that continues to bring truth to everyday people, that to me is rewarding in itself. So there was a love that I had for LA Times. So I'm actually really excited to be back and to see that carried out.
And in your current role, how are you measuring your own success? What is the metric for success as you see it in the role that you're currently in?
Really simple. Grow subscriptions and circulation growth for the LA Times. Grow advertising revenue for the LA Times so that we can continue to do what we do, because it has to grow, and then partnerships across entities and philanthropic efforts. So I oversee product strategy. I oversee all the revenue for the LA Times, including business development, circulation, advertising revenue. I also oversee public affairs and what we do for Reading by 9 and all of our philanthropic efforts. So every day, if we continue to move one step forward towards our goal, to me, that is success. And we just continue to keep pushing forward and making sure that I have the right team that can do that with me.
And are there times, are you many times the only woman in the room, or are there, in these leadership roles, are you amongst many other powerhouse women? Kind of share with me in media. I'm not familiar with how populated media is with female leaders.
You know, in the past, I would say it was a prominently more male-dominated industry. Nowadays, it's a lot more females. I mean, for example, within our newsroom, you've got Julia Turner, who oversees our entertainment, really powerhouse, smart woman that oversees entertainment. You've got Shawnee Hilton. She's also our managing director. Kimmy. You've got, Angel Jennings, who is running our culture and our diversity efforts there. On the business side, on my own team, I've got Myra, Kristen, Nancy, our head of HR, really smart woman, very buttoned up. We've got, Maya is also in sales and leadership. Monica is in our public affairs division. I would say we're a good mixture of men and women on both the business side as well as the newsroom. I think our from 2005 of the LA Times and now is much different.
That's
sure.
Incredible. Yeah.
And it's come a long way. I remember it was really funny in my first stunt between 2005 and 2011, I received the Publishers Award for a couple of efforts. I received it twice because of two things I launched. I was part of a Project Eagle and a part of the Image launch and the Envelope launch originally. And I was voted noted as the youngest vice president for Tribune, and female and an immigrant.
Wow.
Back then. And I would say we have some really smart women now that are leading the efforts and a lot of great different diverse backgrounds. I mean, if you look at Dr. Patrick and Michelle, they're immigrants themselves. They're Chinese American. Yep. And they've gone through, his story is really fascinating if you ever have a chance to read it. And what he's gone through so he's very, very passionate about diversity inclusion in an organization. He's very much engaged through and through with the talent. And it's important. I think it's important to have women and men. But, I would be remiss to say that, in my career, I was fortunate to have very strong male mentors. I've always told myself that I will continue to mentor myself. I do something on my one-on-one basis with folks, but the folks that helped me get here were men, and they were incredible leaders, incredibly smart, incredibly passionate, and not only did they give me a chance, but they embraced the fact that I was a woman and embraced the fact that I had a family and kids, and I still first one in, last one out, type of mentality in the workforce. And I loved it. And so now as, in my leadership role, there are things that I do from a mentorship perspective. It's more one-on-one. I've worked with quite a few D1 athletes that don't go into their professional career as in playing football and or basketball, but they have to transition to more of a business life. And I work with them and I mentor them as to how do you save money? How do you plan for your career? How do you finish up your degree? Because a lot of these athletes will step out towards their last year of their career, trying to get into to more of a professional base. And then I'll work with them one-on-one to get them on the path to buy a house and learn how to save money and how do you date and still save money. And, and it's been fun. I've done about 12 students, as I call, or 12 mentees that I've seen and I've still kept in touch with over the last decade. And I spend about a year with each one of them. And it's so amazing and to watch the progress. I mean, there's one gentleman that I worked with about 9 years ago, and now he owns his own business. Awesome. And his own, he has property and he's doing very, very well. He's actually just moving to Austin to really take his career to the, he's married, he's got 2 kids, and he tells me every day, every time I chance him, he's like, it's because of you that I'm here. And I said, nope, it's because of you. I just showed you the path. but you were
So
the one who chose to get there. So it's so much fun for me to do some of that. And then I'm also involved a little bit with, obviously, back home in my home country and trying to, help some of the families there. Armenia's gone through a really rough time in this last 12 to 18 months. And, and April being recognized as the National Armenian Month.
If you could go back in 10 years or hindsight anything and coach your younger self to approach things differently or to think of things differently or have a different mindset, is there anything that you would go back in time and sit down with your younger Anna and say, hey, listen, here's the deal. Let me give you a little thought for you to be more impactful, more tenacious, speak up more? Or do you feel like you kind of did it the way you needed to do it and that's the reason why you're here today?
Oh, I always think back. No, I don't feel like I did it the way I needed to do it. First of all, yes, speak up more. Don't settle for salary, especially when you know your predecessor made more.
That's such a big conversation.
It's such an issue for women. Negotiate and push.
And what does that mean? Like, dig deep. If we were to coach our younger self, and we know that our predecessor made twice as much or 3 times as much, what would we do differently?
Ask for the money and don't settle until you get it. Fight for it. We as women, I feel that we tend to settle for less. We are our worst critic. We tend to point out. I've also noticed this, and again, this is like research of one. So I've noticed when I, in the past, not LA Times recent, but in my past, in the careers that I've had, when I've reviewed women, they come in with their flaws and they're really focusing on what can I do better? What can I do different? What can I do that's going to make me stronger? Versus men come in with, I'm great. Here's all the things that I do really, really well. And they focus on the positives. I would say as women, we need to own our positives and really focus in on our positives, really talk about our positives more so. And be less self-critical. That's one thing I would tell myself to do, is just be less self-critical and just really own what you're good at and be proud of that. And it's okay to pound your chest once in a while, and that's okay. I never did it, but you learn when you get older that you need to do it. You need to take credit for some of the work that you've done that's really been impactful. Second thing I would probably give myself advice is listen to my body. I need to rest. And it's, you need to take time off. You need to take that Friday off. You need to make it a long weekend, and you need to not apologize for it.
This is important because, for those listening who could use some guidance, and also just as we have an opportunity to think back and to speak to our younger self, if we could backtrack and go back 10 years and say, okay, I'm going to coach you, Anna, listen, here's what you need to know. What would you tell yourself? What would you say? What would you have done differently? Or ask yourself to think differently about?
That's a really great question. I would say the first thing is don't settle for the first offer. We as women tend to not negotiate as hard as men, our salary and our rate. And especially if you know that, or you somehow find out that, there's been situations for me where my predecessor with the same job made more than I did. And I took the job because I was so excited about the job and I wanted to prove myself first before I asked for that salary. I think as women, we need to take the salary and then continue to do what we do and really excel at our position. One of the things I've noticed, which is really interesting, is when in my past, not at LA Times, but in my previous positions, when I've reviewed women in their annual reviews, women are very much focused on what can I do better? How can I improve? They're very in tuned with, making sure that they're continually stepping forward versus owning all the great things that they're good at. Instead of walking in and saying, here are all the great things that I do really, really well. And here are some of the things that I can improve. Men, I've noticed, come in with, here's all the reasons why I should get it this next promotion or this salary increase. And they don't really focus on the stuff that they can do better, more so than women do. And I think as women, we need to own what we're really good at, and we need to be proud of it. And we need to, you know, pound our chest and say, we're damn good at this. And
such good advice.
So that's one thing I would say that probably if I were to give myself advice is don't settle for the first offer, fight for the money you're worth. That's really important. And the second part I would say is, you know, listen to your body. One thing that I tend to do is I work extremely hard, a lot of hours. And in the past, like if I was feeling sick, I've worked right through it. If I was feeling burned down, I'd work right through it. And sometimes you just need to take a minute and take a break, especially in your younger years, because it helps you stay stronger as you get older. And that's one thing that I've become a little bit more mindful of for myself, that I tend to take more breaks now. And when I say breaks is I will take a weekend and get away with my girls or go to a spa day or something of that sort, because I'm not doing 8 to 10 hour days. I'm doing 12 to 14 hour days. And by the time Friday comes around, I'm exhausted. And then you know, if you do a couple of those 3-4 weeks down the road, sometimes you just need a day to catch up, read Netflix, hang out with the kids, do whatever you want to do. Go check yourself in a spa and just disappear for 3 hours and get a bunch of massages and facials and then leave. I think that's really important too, is just listen to your body and trust your body.
Such good advice.
Thank you. Yeah. I think those are probably the two main things, and just continue to have fun. I mean, if work isn't fun and you're spending most of your day doing it,
forget it.
It's not worth it. I love what I do. So to me, it's like, I always say, you'll never know if I'm working or playing.
Ooh, I love that.
Always look like I'm having fun. I stole it from, I borrowed it from this old proverb that I read that it says the art of, I'll get you the quote, Tracy. It's really incredible, but it basically says that no one can tell if you're playing or working, and to the naked eye or to someone else's eye, you always look like you're doing both. And I feel like you should always do both. If you love what you do, you don't feel like you're working.
100%. And that feels like flow, right? I mean, I think that's the only way I can describe that feeling is I'm not meeting myself with resistance. I'm not feeling taxed. I'm just in the flow and I'm loving what I do, and it's exhilarating and the time flies by. And then I think, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid to do this. This is so fun. I can't believe it.
Absolutely. I think that's really fair. And, you know, we spend a lot of our day and a lot of our life working. So if you're not enjoying it, then, you know, I'd say do something that you do enjoy, and it'll just feel better. You'll enjoy your day more and you'll be a happier person. Look, I'm not one that meditates. I never really got into it. I really tried, but I started giggling and I just can't get into it as much. I tried yoga. It's not really for me. Do air boxing and kickboxing, and I love hikes. That's how I do to clear my head. Everyone's always tells me, oh, you need to do meditation and yoga and you'll feel so much better. And, you know, you got to do what you feel good when you're doing it. And if you feel that what you've been doing for a long time no longer works for you, then you should be open to try new things. And I think that's how one way I found like early morning hikes really help clear my head.
Yeah.
I get up 6 in the morning. I'm actually up like 4:30 in the morning, but I get to the hike at like 6:30 in the morning. And when I say hike, I could be walking or I could be hiking. It's not that, detrimental. And then for the longest time, I used to air box or cardio box, and I loved it. I just get lost in the music, and it's just my zen. And yoga was never really my zen. Yoga just always hurt me so much that I could never feel like I'm in zen. I'm like, ow, I can't stretch that way. And I know
it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not. And I know so many of my friends who do it and they love it. They're like, we can't wait till you get into this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We'll try.
Right.
We'll try it.
Well, and it's funny because you answered some of at the end of every interview, I love asking some of these quick fire questions because I find that a lot of powerhouse women are similar in how they approach their day to day and what some of their success secrets and habits are. So you said you get up at 4:30. That's one of my questions. What time do you wake up every morning?
Oh, really?
Most women are getting up sometime around 5 to 6:30 every day. So 4:30 is early.
It's not by choice. I just wake up. I don't know what it is. I've tried doing this where it's helped me a little bit more so to sleep a little further. So the night before I prep for my next day around 10 o'clock. If I don't have guests over, I take about 30 minutes and I just look at my meetings, make sure I have everything that I need. I'll sometimes look at it for the next day and the day after.
So brilliant. I really recommend this. This is an exceptionally powerful tool to get you in the right mindset for the next morning and just what you need to do to get out of bed and prepare.
Absolutely. So when I do it the night before, I'm more calm because I feel, okay, I'm prepared for so like last night, I looked at all some of the technical stuff. I want to make sure I had my headsets for today, make sure I have everything. I picked out my shirt, my outfit, my earrings, everything was set. So when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't frazzled. I wasn't set up. The other quirky thing that I do, which I think my husband might admit me one day for this, is I color code my whole closet is color coordinated. So I have all the whites and then it goes like from white to dark and all my clothes and my shoes everything has its own place. So I always know where everything is at all times so that in the mornings, I'm very efficient. I know exactly what I'm going to wear. I know if I'm looking for a black top, it's in this area. It's silly, but it keeps me organized and I don't get frazzled and I don't get stressed. So if I can alleviate some of that stress for me in the morning before I get to work, I get into work very energized and very much like ready for whatever is going to come my way. That is probably when people ask me like, oh, what are some of the routines and things you do? I say, I prep the night before. My closet, I like people say, oh, I'm going to go clean my closet. I actually can't remember the last time I've ever cleaned my closet because my closet never gets dirty. I know because everything has to go back in its place. So I just know that. The other thing is my hikes in the morning are really helpful for me to just like think about stuff that's not work. I actually consciously block out what's going to happen the rest of the day. For me, I actually put music on or I'll listen to a podcast or I'll listen to I'll be on a kick to learn Italian. So I'll start like learning Italian words and I'm talking to myself as I'm hiking up with some Italian words. It just depends on like what I'm in the mood for, but I try not to look at emails. I try not to respond on anything at that early. Plus it's also when you're at a leadership role, when you send somebody a 3 a.m., 4 a.m., or 5 a.m. email in the morning, they get anxiety to answer you back right away. And so I don't want my team to ever feel that. I want to respect their hours of work. And I always, especially if I do send something late and I say, please don't feel obligated to respond. I'm just sending this just to clear my inbox. And then I'll respond to their email just so that they don't feel that they need to respond at that silly time. But these are my morning routines. But truth be told is I don't have like a set every single day is the same routine too, because I have a tendency of getting bored. So if like hike is no longer working for me, I'll find something else. I'll go cycle or I'll go do Pilates or something of that sort. If I'm into a tea kick, I'll do my teas. If I'm into a coffee kick, I'll do my coffees. Like, it's not like I love tradition, but I'm not traditional in every aspect of my life because I like a little bit of the spontaneity, I guess, a little bit of that.
Of course.
Even in the littlest things, like even the smallest little things, I'll decide to like on a Friday, I'll ask my kids, like, does anybody have schoolwork that's really pressing? No. Okay. We're taking a road trip. What, Mom? What road trip? I'm like, I don't know, just pack a bag. We'll end up somewhere. We'll probably spend the night and we'll end up in Santa Barbara or Solvang or San Francisco. And then I'll call my husband and say, hey, I'm going with the kids. I'm not exactly sure when we'll be back. And he'll be like, all right, have fun. And let me know if you're local. I'll meet you guys there Sunday. And it's always, I call it Adventures with Mom. And I've done this since they were 10 or 12. And it's just fun because they just don't know what to expect.
I love that. That is so smart. So smart. Well, you've given us so many juicy tips and things to think about. And I can't wait to continue to watch your career, Anna. You have really made such an impact in the media world, and you're such a leader, and everyone in LA knows you.
Oh,
so I can't wait to continue to watch you soar. And it was really an honor to be able to talk to you today. I appreciate your time.
I'm honored to be on your show. I mean, you are truly one of the most magnificent women I've ever met. So I'm so honored. Thank you for having me. Your career, I continue to follow. The brands you've built and the brilliance behind it is truly fascinating, Tracy. So I'm honored not only to know you and call you a friend and to share our career path and our stories together, but you continue to inspire me daily as well. And I don't take that for granted, and I'm really humbled and gracious to know you.
Thank you. If anyone wants to follow you on social media, where do you send them? Where can they find you?
So I'm not really big on social media. I keep it pretty private with just because I have like kids pictures and family, and I'm really not that interesting. Like it's more my family pictures. Sometimes I'll do a little bit on Twitter, which I think it's Amags123 if I'm not mistaken. And I'll post like once every month or so. I know everyone tells me I need to make my account public and do more on social, but I just don't have that time right now.
Well, and you have a pretty high profile gig, so you really do need to keep a low profile, but I think LinkedIn could be a great way to connect with you.
Yes. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about LinkedIn for some reason. Yes, LinkedIn I'm actually very active on. It's Anna Magzanyan on LinkedIn, and I welcome that, please. Yes, I'm actually more active on LinkedIn, and I consider that my Rolodex more than my social media. But I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I actually probably use it the most.
Perfect. Well, check her out. You will really be privileged to be able to get to know her and connect with her. So thank you so much. And
Thank you so much.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to From Potential to Powerhouse, Success Secrets from Female Leaders with your host, Tracy Holland.